Hello chess friends and welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome to a beautiful game from the computer chess rating list website, the amazing CCRL. We have here Stockfish 17 against another top engine Minic in an amazing Nimzowitsch variation of the Bogo-Indian Defense, and in this game Stockfish 17, the strongest chess engine in the world, will show us a great theoretical novelty, a new improvement for white against the Bogo-Indian Defense. I think a very interesting method, a line that has never been played so far in chess history. I think if you are bothered maybe by the Bogo-Indian Defense, this is a perfect video for you with some great strategies here by Stockfish 17. So let's dive now into the game with the white pieces. The fish open with move d4, knight to f6 by Minic, c4, e6. Now we have a knight to f3, the counter Nimzo or anti-Nimzo Indian system, not allowing, of course, after knight to c3 to be pinned by the bishop on b4. We have bishop to b4 anyway. Now it becomes, of course, the Bogo-Indian Defense. We have bishop to d2, and now after queen to e7, we have now the so-called Nimzowitsch variation of the Bogo-Indian Defense. And white has some options, can of course play knight to c3 immediately, can of course play passive e3, a3 is also a possibility, but I think the most progressive way is here to play like Stockfish g3 with the preparation to play bishop to g2 and not allowing here also great development by black on the queen side. We have now knight to c6, knight to c3, here Minic took, and after bishop to c3, it could be a little bit strange to give up the bishop for knight in the early stage of the opening, but I think it's the basic concept of the Bogo-Indian Defense, giving up then this piece for knight, which is of course controlling the e4 square, and then later black is trying to hop with the knight on e4, cement it, have a nice grip with the support of the bishop, then have a further control of the e4 square. Sometimes in the Bogo-Indian Defense, black is simply fixing everything around that, around the square e4, and then slowly but surely launches here a flank attack with f5, g5, h5, and similar stuff. So here knight to e4 played by Minic immediately. Stockfish plays now rook to c1. Stockfish is saying, I'll not keep my bishop on the board, but at least if you take with the knight here the bishop, then the rook is coming to the game, and then the rook could have great opportunities in the game. Castling by Minic, bishop to g2, d6, and now d5, breaking now the position in the center, attacking now the knight to d8. And when we watch now this position is pretty solid for black. Actually, many great games have been played in chess history in this position. I see a beautiful game, Giri versus Anand, won by black. Grishchuk against Vasily Ivanchuk, also won by black. Then Vasily Ivanchuk against Papaioannou, also drawish position. So you see, black has, I think, a decent success in this opening here, I think, with the strategy to hop with the knight, then, as I said, to simply push the pawn further, also later maybe to go with the light square bishop some point in the game. So really solid position for black for sure. So knight to d2 by Stockfish. Stockfish doesn't want to tolerate anymore this knight, and now after knight to c3, you should of course take with the rook, because you have already played with your rook here to c1, and it would be, I think, a bad choice then to simply take like this. Then black could build a beautiful defensive setup with e5, then f5, would eventually, I don't know, try in some maneuvers like b6, knight to b7, knight to c5, would really cement the position, and maybe even later to play something like bishop to a6 and hit simply the weak pawn on c4. And we have to also mention then the c3 pawn is also weak, so that's why rook to c3, which gives here Stockfish a certain flexibility to go with the rook all over the third rank, maybe even if necessary to attack the queen through the e file. We have now the move a5, standard idea I would say by the Bogo-Indian Defense players, again with the same plan to play b6, knight to b7, and then knight to c5, fixing the position on dark squares, keeping a really nice dark square grip, and then eventually push the pawn on e5. We have to mention in this potential scenario, the light square bishop of whites would be blocked, and it wouldn't be, of course, the best minor piece on the board. And now comes, I think, a very important moment of this opening. Stockfish here plays an amazing f4, the move that has never been played so far in chess history, and this move is not allowing black to play in such an easy way this move e5 that will come now by black, but it's not the same position without or with the move f4. In chess history, kingside castling has been played, and something like e5. Then we have seen even c5 methods, also the e3, f4 stuff, and similar ideas. But here f4 very interesting, because after move e5 that Minic played, Stockfish simply castled kingside immediately. And let's see now what happens if you, for instance, try here, after kingside castling, if you play e takes f4 like Minic did. Then you have this beautiful opportunity now to play g takes f4, and you see now, although this king of white is a little bit endangered, now you have a great control of the center, and you're trying to play e4, then maybe if possible e5, c5. You are finally storming with this pawns in the center, and that's the beauty about this opening line. You have at least some kind of a dynamic position. In the previous lines, I would say the position is more static, the position is more positional, with not so many options for both sides. Now, when the pawn is on the f file and you have the opportunity to push the pawn on e4, I think this is finally great control of the center by white, and at least something is going on. So what should now black do? For instance, if you try f5 to not allow this move e4 immediately, then white can immediately go with c5. Then after something like d takes c5, knight to b3, you're trying maybe to fix the structure, but look at this. Great move, d6, and then you lose the rook here on ax. So that's also, I think, a beautiful trap that maybe you could try to apply in many of your games if you, of course, reach this position. Look at this, not so easy for black to control now all of the dark squares here. So that's why in the game a4 was played by Minic, first of all, expanding on the queen side with the same plan, as we said, b6, knight to b7, and then knight to c5, keeping the queen side paralyzed, neutralized, without any further counterplay than for white on that side of the board. After move a4, now Stockfish plays a beautiful queen to c1. This move connects now, of course, the queen to the rook on the c file, is preparing also the move c5, but it's of course also preparing the move e4, and then in some lines the queen is also connected to the pawn on f4. So far the queen should not be, of course, on the first rank, but the queen is a long-range piece. The queen will eventually come into the game for sure in an active way. Now at least the queen is controlling both sides and has a great attacking chances on the queen side, but also in the center of the board. So what should you do now? If you try here b6, again to prevent this idea c5, this wasn't playing the game, then e4, look at this, then you continue the attacking flow. Then if f6 happens, then you have this one, knight to f3, look at this. This wasn't playing the game, but I've analyzed a little bit deeper what's really going on the board. After knight to f3, maybe black could go for the pawn here on e4, but now you have the pressure. Now you just continue. Look at this, the attacking flow. Black is trying maybe to control the squares, then you go with the rook here into the game. Queen to h6, then knight to e6. Then after bishop to e6, we have then d takes e6. Rook is hanging, knight is hanging. For instance, if you try here in this position, for instance, the move f5, then queen to d2, you're trying finally this idea maybe to hop with the knight on c5, but then knight to e6 again. There's simply too much pressure here. You push the pawn, this rook is coming into the game. Look at this, bishop is coming. I'm not sure, look at this, rook is coming. You have to escape. Even in some lines, you can even sacrifice the rook. I just analyzed a little bit at home further this position. Of course, I'm going to share it with you. White and black don't have to play the game like this, but look at this. The king is so naked. I just continue to analyze. Look at this, really epic, brutal attack. It would have been, for instance, one possible line that I analyzed at home. But I wanted to show you after queen to c1 that it's not so easy to play this move b6 because you're leaving too many weaknesses in the position. So as I said, we continue then, and then even with knight to f3, e5, then the possession would finally crack in the center of the board, and white would have very nice progressive ideas. So that's why for queen to c1 we have bishop to d7 here by Minic. Stockfish continues now with the c5 plan, d takes c5, and again Stockfish is not rushing for the pawn. Stockfish has now deflected this d pawn to the c file and has now again a powerful central control. Once, of course, later maybe possible even to play e4 and then e5. It doesn't matter if you lose the pawn. Now you're storming with the pawns, and now you have great attacking chances. Here finally b6 by Minic, but it of course again opens up now the diagonal for the light square bishop. We have now rook to e3, great move. You see the beauty about this move, rook takes c3. Now the rook is flexible and creates new chances here on the e file. We have now rook to e8 and now f5. Stockfish is getting through. Look at this, very two dynamic pawns, very mobile, very aggressive. f6 is also now of course the huge threat, and there's not so much that can be done. I would say here white is already much better. So what should black do? If you try f6 to block maybe the f6 by white, then d6 is again coming through. You're trying something like this, then look at this, knight takes f6, queen takes f6, rook to e8, bishop to e8, and then this rook is heading. So the rooks are not connected on the e8 rank. That's also something that bothers now black, of course, in the continuation of the game. So that's why after f5, queen to f8, and now Stockfish is finally getting through. We have now the move g6, and now knight to g5, with the opportunity to do really many attacking ideas here on this side of the board. Maybe if it's possible also to include with the rook on the h file. So far it's not possible, but maybe later. So again, great options here by Stockfish 17. And again, let's see options for black. I really analyzed this game at home. What to do now? How can black maybe make any progress here? For instance, if you try here rook to e3, then queen to e3, maybe h6, knight to f3, and then you're trying maybe to cement the position with knight to d6, but it's still not working. Queen to f4, a3, b3, you're trying something like this, e4, and as I said, when the pawn on e5 is coming through, I would not love to play this position anymore from black's perspective. This is simply too much pressure. Or for instance, you try something like a knight to e5 here, you don't have to even push the pawns here. Then after something like rook to e8, queen to f4, queen to g3, even in this line maybe. But again, the same goal is, I think, this idea. e4, and then e5, the bishop is controlling the pawn on d5, and the pawns are rolling. And even in some lines, I think h4 could work. If something clears on the g file, it could be a checkmate. So again, I think the only attacking chances only white has here in this beautiful position. So that's why after knight to g5, Minic tried c6, which is even worse scenario. Now Stockfish shows why you should never open this diagonal here. D takes c6 by the fish, and now you have to play knight takes c6, and that's now a huge positional problem. The knight is stuck here. Of course, it's always attacked by this bishop, but you cannot even take here with bishop to c6. Look how dangerous this position is. If you after d takes c6 by Stockfish, that if you pick it up with the bishop, then there is a stunning knight takes h7. Look at this crazy stuff. You're trying king to h7, rook to h3, king to g8, now bishop to c6, knight to c6, and then rook to f4, building a battery on the h file, queen to d6, and now look at this. You can even sacrifice more pieces here. You sacrifice just everything just in order to get the queen on the h file, and with the support of the pawn, it would be also a stunning checkmate. Of course, as it's always, white and black don't have to play a game like this, but I really analyzed at home what could be really the natural, maybe human idea in this types of positions. So let's see, even in this line, black is simply getting destroyed. So after d takes c6, I think now we can agree that black has to take now with the knight, but now Stockfish continues with beautiful move, bishop to d5, and hits now simply the weakness on f7. We have now rook to e3, first the check. We have now king to h6, Stockfish grabs now the rook. We have now queen to d6, and now bishop to c4, with the idea, of course, to let this pawn roll, of course, also with some threats to promote on f8. If you try here queen to d4, to simplify the game from black's perspective, to trade off the queens, this is not working, because after knight to f7, you get this one again, and you check. Now we trade it off, and now the knight can pick up this bishop on d7, and the pawn is rolling. The knight is supporting also the f8 square. Game over here for black. After bishop to c4, that's why rook to f8, knight to f7, rook to f7, bishop to f7, and now knight to e5, and now bishop to c4. Another brilliant move here by the fish. For instance, if you try knight takes c4, then this pawn it's again mobile, with a threat here to play something like f7. So that's why black is now pretty much forced to trade off the queens, but now there's nothing that can stop now this pawn on the f file. Again, it would be game over. Even if you try bishop to f5 here, then f7 anyway, king to g7, then the queen is coming. You're trying again, maybe again to trade off everything, but then this one is winning here. Look at this, bishop to e6, king to f8, takes, and now in this scenario, black is down the exchange. White will pick up all of these pawns, will create a passer, and again, game over for black. So nothing can be done, really game over position here for black. After bishop to c4, bishop to f7, bishop takes, and now king to g7, queen to f4, h5, and after bishop to c4, in this position, Minic resigned. So great attack by the fish against the Bogo-Indian Defense. Really interesting stuff. This f4 idea in the beginning, really interesting, not allowing Black to play this e5 move in such a great way, and then castling going into this attack where the pawns are rolling e4, c5, e5, f5. We have seen when the pawns are storming by white here, Black didn't have so much chances. Incredible dynamic play again by Stockfish 17. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this attack by Stockfish against the Bogo-Indian Defense. If you want to see more beautiful attacking games like this, check out our Come to Chess Games Play by Computer series. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.